So Oscar Robertson came out in a video, I think it was with all that smoke with Matt Barnes and them, and he was saying that he said that Wilt Chamberlain carried the NBA. That's a heck of a statement coming from a guy who himself you could make that statement for. But he talked about that year when he averaged 50 and 25. He talked about, he said Russell won the MVP, so they got MVP. Matt Barnes was asking how come they don't, they was asking why they don't talk about it. Because Wilt Chamberlain was scary. He wasn't, he was big, but he wasn't a crossover brother. See, when they want to cross you over, they'll make you bigger than larger than life, you know. And I've said this before. Shaquille O'Neal is probably the first NBA center that you can actually say that crossed over in a way that he was successful and he registered off the court, but they weren't scared of him per se. Wilt scared him, Russell scared him, Kareem scared him for different reasons. There's footage of him playing. Don't make it out to be like Wilt Chamberlain played in the 1800s because they got Babe Ruth footage that they hold as the holy grail. Shohei Ohtani is getting Ruthian comparisons. So don't tell me that you can't go back 60 years ago when you go back 100 years ago. Make it make sense. They just choose not to have Wilt Chamberlain acknowledged. They've been selling this lie. See, when you talk to people like Oscar Robertson, it's important that you go to the horse's mouths, the people who were there, the people that have the respect for the game, the people that will speak on it, not the ones who are bought and paid heads who want to make it sound like, well, he was a ladder and everybody else was a bar stool. That's the agenda they want to say. They don't want to bring up the cold hard facts that size doesn't mean that you're going to dominate. That was the case. George Murison would have had an incredible career. Y'all mean been healthy. Mark Eaton. I can name you plenty of tall Manu Bowl too, who actually shot a 3-point shot. That would have not been the case. But the man was just an athletic special prowess, dominant for his era and his time. They just don't want him to be acknowledged. They don't name awards after him. And it always leads me, because he went to the ABA too, leads me to believe because there's other agendas. Because if you don't play go along, get along ball, they have a way of whitewashing the facts and the history. They tend to do that. Last I checked, there is no Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award named. There is no Kareem or Wilt. And Bill Russell Finals Award just came in the last decade. Why that took so long, and I don't know if Shaq will get one. Ironically, Shaq being the biggest name brand. So they don't do that. I know some people are going to say, well, does, the Samsung lie because he's big and expectations. Why are there expectations because you oversized? How about the fact that he was just a freaking great all-around athlete, as was Oscar Robertson? Think about that. Two of the greatest players ever in the same era. And you can make an argument that those guys can be ranked anywhere all time between 1 and 15. That's how great they were. You can, and that goes along with whatever you got in between. You can put those two guys as names. And we're talking 50, 60 years ago. They still register a mention in the top 15 greatest ever, those two. So don't tell me that they just don't want Wilt Chamberlain to be acknowledged. Just like they don't really want Oscar Robertson to be acknowledged. Because I watch how they talk. If you're a real head and you're going to talk that real talk, you got to acknowledge it. That's why I give a shout out to Two Raw for Sports for always doing what he do, and others that speak on it too. Because we got to get past this JJ Redick and this other nonsense of disrespecting players from an era when they were athletic, when they were great. As a matter of fact, I don't know too many athletes today who could match Wilt Chamberlain's stamina or what he could do. Now I'm a big Shaquille O'Neal fan, and I would take Shaq because of what I would say in terms of what he did as a center. You ask me who was a better player overall, like you got to give Wilt his own, because there's not been another one like him. He was the Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds of basketball, the Jim Brown, O.J. Simpson, the ones that set the real trends, not the ones that were made to, afterwards. I'm talking about those trends where that was a standard, a real standard, a standard that you don't even have to even question, that he was a benchmark. And it's important because, yes, he cares, because let's be realistic. The big man is always used the most important player in the game because you got to go through it to win. That's why when you say the likes of Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, and you can give Moses Malone, Elijah wants to do. Jokic is coming up, but ain't no one had feared him. Those guys I mentioned were feared. Those were guys that you feared because you know they were dominant. You had to go through them to win. Because if you didn't beat them, they were going to beat you. That's dominance. Don't get it twisted. Oscar Robertson was incredible. And I'm glad to see him speaking out because it's a fact. He didn't just stat pad and just do that. He was intriguing. He was dominant. And that should never be lost. I don't care what era we're talking. If a guy is dominant, he's imposing his will, or if a woman's imposing her will, like Serena Williams did in tennis, you got to take heed to that. Aja Wilson should be getting some love. Aja Wilson is dominating the WNBA. Let that thing be known. And don't be playing it off well as because they were hostess workers or they were towel workers. No, you great, you great. That's the bottom line. That's what we look for if we're keeping it real. Please like, subscribe, work on thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for another shit if you like. Hit that membership. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay true, stay real, stay woke, stay on time. I'm out. Peace.